Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast, this time looking at the book Queers Dig Timelords, just out from Mad Norwegian Press. Now the Dig series, that would be Chicks Dig Timelords, Chick Dig Comics, Whedonistas, and of course Chicks Unravel Time, have all been phenomenally successful. Fans talking to fans about their own experience of being fans and their own opinions. And here we have something that really should have existed a long time ago. Perhaps if Doctor Who hadn't come back, Queers Dig Timelords would have been out, say in England, or would have indeed been out in a slightly different format. But it does illustrate for me the main difference between American fan experiences and UK fan experiences. You see, for us, over here, it's in our blood. It's part of what makes us who we are. And many of us grew up with the original series. For some people, the original series was full of subtext and subversion. For other people, the original series was more asexual and without kisses from anyone, without even a hint of a heterosexual subtext. The series could progress as an adventure programme for the whole family. No threats, no fears, no lines to cross. Modern television isn't like that. And perhaps that's a reason that us old stick-in-the-mud fans sit back and watch our old DVDs. Perhaps not. I've discussed my best friend Andy a few times on this podcast. A man sadly no longer with us. The man who was the best man at my wedding. One of the funniest people I've ever had in my life at all. He happened to be gay. But like Gary Russell says in his section of the book, he doesn't really describe himself as gay. He describes himself as homosexual. A man who happens to fancy men. Gay has connotations of campness, of frivolity, of drag queens. Andy was none of these things. He was just a funny, nice man who happened to like other men. I miss him. And reading this book took me back to conversations I'd have with him, talking about the Happiness Patrol, about things that were intended or not intended, relationships between the Master and the Third Doctor, things that could be seen if you looked hard enough, but if you were looking too hard, were you making stuff up yourself? In America, the two big competing fandoms are Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who used to slide in via the back door, no pun intended, for a lot of people. Incredibly strong, masculine, heterosexual characters abide in these other programmes and films, properties, shall we call them. But in Doctor Who it was different. This was the realm of the outcast, and in England that was felt strongly. That's probably why we hung on to it so much, because you don't have to be gay to feel an outcast, but sometimes you feel an outcast if you're gay. And this is a programme for and about an outcast. We can relate to that. So yes, this book needed to exist. Now halfway through the book is something that attracted my attention. Being a podcaster, I admittedly immediately turned to Eric Stadnick's remarkably good essay all about his experience of being a Doctor Who podcaster, his experience of fandom. It's a call to arms, a clarion call to other people. After reading it, if I'd not been a podcaster, I would have seriously considered taking it up. Yes, there are well over 112 Doctor Who podcasts out there, and that's perfectly understandable. Because if you get 100 Doctor Who fans in a room, you will have 100 different points of view. Now, admittedly, I'm white, I'm male, I'm in my 40s, I'm straight. I am a predictable Doctor Who fan. But if I had something different to say, something with a slightly different worldview, I'd be inspired by his words. To come out and say, yes, here's my podcast, here's my view of the show. Because if you read this book, you'll see that everyone has their own views on everything. And it's not just a collection of how much we like / hate Captain Jack. It belongs with the other books, in that it's tremendously well put together, tremendously well written. It touches you, it touches your heart, because you may not be part of the community, but we're Doctor Who fans, so we're all one family. Maybe he's not always happy, but we love each other, and we've got something in common that works. Is Doctor Who a gay programme? Or, as viewers, do we just put on the programme what we experience and what we feel? Decide for yourself. It's not for me to say. I just know that I love the programme and I love this book. So thank you one and all for coming up with this brilliant title and reminding me of times with a really nice guy, and reminding me of my best friend. There's been a few Doctor Who books in recent years that I would definitely attract your attention to. One of the ones I'm desperately looking forward to is Adventures with the Wife in Space. If you want to know more about this particular one, I point you in the direction of The 2-Minute Time Lord and Radio Free Skaro, both of which have remarkably good interviews with the contributors. I'm just reviewing it and saying it's well worth getting. So stop messing about with a podcast and order it in any form. So until next time, be seeing you. You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its connected properties are copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. Whostrology, a Time Traveller's Almanac, is available through Telos Publishing or Amazon. Visit www.whostrology.com for further information. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.